Hello everyone, my name's Robyn Ewing and this is Kathy Rushton.
And we'd like to acknowledge all the lands on which we're meeting in our Zoom world, and especially to remind everyone, because we're talking about language and literacy, that for millennia there were thousands of dialects and hundreds of languages in this country, and that they have protected and kept special knowledge that Aboriginal people are still happy to share with the rest of us. Robyn and I are also happy to be able to share this one strategy with you that is useful for working in a range of classrooms.
And the strategy is Readers Theatre. And we have two resources up there on the screen. Beyond the Script, which has a chapter on Readers Theatre, and
Tell Me Your Story, a book written by myself with my colleagues Dr. Janet Dutton, Dr. Jackie DeWard and Joanne Rossbridge, with a focus on the middle years of schooling.
And although we have a PowerPoint, we're not going to talk at length about each slide. We're just going to give you a little bit of a snapshot to help you look at the different approach that we've taken compared to some of the other approaches to Readers Theatre. One of the things that's really interesting is that we all read things in different ways, and Readers Theatre makes that visible to other people and how everybody interprets what they read based on their own experiences and understandings.
It's an especially wonderful strategy to use with students who are learning English and already have one or more languages or dialects, because it's a place where we can have authentic sharing of students' own linguistic resources. And the research that we're building on here was undertaken in a secondary school as well as primary schools.
So Readers Theatre is a drama strategy which demonstrates how reading is about making meaning. It's really a group storytelling activity, and you can authentically collaborate together to develop your reading, your understanding, your fluency in reading, your listening to others and the way they read, all sorts of things. I'm not sure if you're aware that reading out loud is the hardest kind of reading of all. And Readers Theatre really helps us overcome those initial challenges that lots of children and young people experience when they're asked to read out loud. Here are some of the outcomes, both in English, in literacy more generally, and in the arts, that Readers Theatre enables. So one of the things that is a good way into Readers Theatre is for you to think out loud when you're reading to your students, and to really emphasise and make clear the different kinds of things that our voice does. Our voice is a wonderful instrument, and just modelling with your students the way we use it is a great way to begin. And the following slides show you a couple of examples of the different ways that children can start experimenting with changing the pace or the pitch or the tone or the volume of what they're reading. Now, it's very easy to download a script. There are lots of scripts on the internet that you can get straight away. We don't recommend that. We think it's much better for you initially to write a script based on a text that you've been using with your students for close study, but in time, enabling them to create their own scripts and, to start thinking about writing creatively. And Kathy will talk more about how they can use many different languages to do that. Once a script is written, there are lots of different things that you can experiment with. For example, using percussion instruments to emphasize particular things that are happening in the text. And this is just an example of using Libby Gleason's Eleanor Elizabeth, of how you can think about representing both the conversation that's happening out loud, but simultaneously the thinking that the character Eleanor is doing at the same time in Eleanor Elizabeth. One of the things that is really great about Reader's Theatre is that it enables your students to work together authentically, and there's a range of different things that you can provide information about in terms of the things that your students might do together. So, getting started, you might ask your other staff members to model for your students what Reader's Theatre looks like. You might ask an older group of students to come in and model a script. There are lots of YouTube examples, and we've just given you one. So there's just a step-by-step now about how you can get started with scripting, and then how you can move on to helping your learners script for themselves. And here's an example. I always use lots of storytellers, especially at the beginning with younger readers, so that there's not too much to read all at once.
Robyn's pointed out some examples for younger students, but this is a great strategy for older students, especially students who speak a language other than English at home, including a dialect. It's an opportunity for all the macro skills: reading, writing, listening and speaking, and for collaboration. And I think it also helps students to make a connection that's authentic and meaningful between their home and their school, and it sends a message that we value all the languages that are spoken in this country. We built our work initially on Cummins and his work in Canada in immersion schools and with EALD students. We've put a lot of references at the end of this PowerPoint so that you can look at all of them up yourself. But I want you to know that this is based in theory. It's not just a strategy. And it is one that uses all the languages in your classroom, but also helps to develop English. What's not to love about that? Here's an example that we took, and you can see the book there, Rivers and Resilience, Aboriginal People on Sydney's Georges River. People often think, oh, the scripting, they can't do it, or it's too hard, or it stops creativity. No. Harder work for the narrator, and that can be a shared role, as Robyn suggested, with younger students, many storytellers. You can have 2 or 3 narrators. But some of the voices, voice number 1 in this was lifted from the text. Voice number 2, there's the creativity. I'll start as narrator. In 1933, an Aboriginal man, Joe Anderson, appeared on a Cinesound newsreel in cinemas around Australia, speaking from a bushland setting and demanding respect with his first words.
Before the white man set foot in Australia, my ancestors had kings in their own right, and I, Aboriginal King Baraga, am a direct descendant of the royal line. There is plenty of fish in the river for us all, and land to grow all we want. The black man owned Australia, and now he demands more than charity. He wants the right to live.
Voila, what are you talking about? Here, this is Saltpan Creek, mate. We're right in the middle of bloody Bankstown, and that was 90 years ago. We need to give your people a voice, and now, Yalla Shabab. And my apologies to any Arabic speakers. I did my best.
So when your students are starting to develop a story, they might choose an oral story. And in Beyond the Script, we talk about the strategy of using advance and detail. So partners are sitting opposite each other. One partner is telling their story. The listener is indicating when they need the storyteller to give more detail or when they need to move on with the story. So you can find more detail about that in Beyond the Script.
And we used this strategy with our secondary students, and we'll show you what they did with it. It was an authentic collaboration in Year 8. And the students, you'll see, who chose this text, based it, the setting was Indonesia, the language they chose was Arabic. But that was a group decision. They didn't all speak Arabic and they weren't all from Indonesian backgrounds. But they had picked the best story after they'd done their strategy and heard several versions of different people's stories. They went, that's the one we're going to turn into a script. And this is the language we're going to use. And here it is, the beach house in Indonesia. There's English and some slang and Arabic names and Arabic. And this is the gift from the students to the teacher. This was not requested. This was offered by the students. It really demonstrates clearly the pride they felt in their own ability to read and write in that particular language. And the other students in their group were very happy to support the Arabic speakers in this work. I think it doesn't need any more description than that. You can see what's happening here. And these students are collaborating and producing scripts, thinking about English, subject English, and developing their literacy at the same time.
And there are lots of different ways that you can use Reader's Theatre to assess what's happening. And here are some examples. It's really interesting that we often don't think about even recording the Reader's Theatre script and recording it at the beginning when you're just starting with the script, and recording it later after you've had some time to work on it. Think about how you're going to read it, what kind of sounds and other things that you're going to do with it. That's a great assessment strategy, but there's lots more here as well. So there's just, if you like, a bit of a summary here. I just wanted to emphasise it at the end, that in my experience using Reader's Theatre, and I know, as Kathy has said in her experience too, Reader's Theatre is fun. Learners enjoy it. They learn lots about reading out loud. They also consolidate their understanding that reading is about making meaning. They have fun together negotiating and collaborating, and their oral reading, their understanding of what reading is about improves at the same time.
And for those older students, developing the narrator's role is much more difficult than using dialogue. And there's definite learning skills here about how to tell a story with a combination of the narration and the dialogue. And they're very suitable skills and understandings for secondary students. So while this isn't often used in secondary schools, I think it could be to very great effect.
Mm. And here are the resources that we've been talking about on the way through. And many thanks for listening to us today. We hope this has been, a helpful strategy that you'll find useful.
Thank you.